have a pitcher come out who is nominally your best starting pitcher, I think you have to be concerned. And I'm a little bit concerned about Matthew Liberatore because of the drop in velocity during the game yesterday.
Yeah, when he's at his best, it's 97, and he's locating. He has not been there the last two starts, and he's been hit hard. He's been leaning a lot on that breaking ball, and that was what he did early in his career when he struggled as a starter. Now you start to wonder, okay, what's going on? Fatigue-related issues is one of those general descriptions that doesn't really give you anything on what's going on with Matthew Liberatore. And there's so many questions of how is this rotation going to be able to weather the ship? How are they going to be able to find a way to get through this tough stretch of games? Well, if you lose Liberatore, you do have some depth, but you were talking about a potential six-man rotation. That's kind of out the window if Liberatore goes on the IL.
Well, the one thing you can do is if you IL him, you just have to get another arm for the bullpen because Matz comes out of the bullpen, you bring McGreevy up, and then you add that to the other four. But your point is well taken. You don't have your number one guy. I guess Sonny Gray, who goes tonight, is thought of as their number one guy because he's the highest paid. But from day one to now, game 62, Cardinals have played 62. They have 100 left. Liberatore has been the guy. All right. I have developed an opinion that and this is with all due respect to Brendan Donovan, great hitter. I think the best all-around hitter on this team at the moment, maybe not over the course of 4, 5, 10 years, but at the moment, I think the best all-around hitter on this team, despite the recent struggles until yesterday, is Ivan Herrera.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe bet. He's had a pretty good sample size at the major leagues. Yes, he's been up and down. He's been injured. But when he's been here, he's looked good. And he controls the strike zone well. He doesn't expand his zone too much. He's not chasing sliders down and away. And there's a level of discipline to his at-bats that I think maybe isn't there with some of the other guys on this team. And that's what puts him in such a good position to wait for his pitch. You saw it yesterday in the 8th inning of the game when they went up 4-3, being able to drive that ball to left center. But when he's at his best, it's when he's going the other way. It's when he's lining it to right. He had a hit in front of Jack Caglione in game 2 of the series, game 1 of the doubleheader, that I think started to get him back into a feeling of comfort at the plate. So that's a really good point. The best hitters on this team are the ones that work counts. Brendan Donovan certainly is one of those. He's in a bit of a cold spell. They're finding out that you can pitch to him low with that slider and just never put the ball in the strike zone. Because if you leave it at the knees and then start to drop it, he can get his hands down. But if you start it below the knees and make him fish, then there's really no way he can hurt you.
And he's a guy that if you do make the mistake and leave it up in the zone, he's capable of hitting the ball out of the ballpark and hitting it anywhere in the ballpark. He's when he's at his best, he's a terrific hitter, but like every other hitter, he's going to have to adjust to their adjustment.
Right. And one of the pitfalls of yesterday's game in game 2, and something that I was noticing, a lot of 2-0 swings late in the game, a lot of early in the count swings, which again, there's certainly a strategy there, a game plan from Brant Brown, and I would never question that. But to me, when you see a reliever in a game late and you have a runner on and you're down by 1-2 runs, I want to work that count. You got to wait for the best pitch. And sometimes passing the baton is okay. You don't have to be the hero. You don't have to drive in that winning run. Give it to the next guy and really put pressure on that pitcher. And that's what they've done by and large this year. I don't think they did it very much in game 2 of the doubleheader.
And I agree with that philosophy. And I would always complain to Tony La Russa about that. Hey, why are you guys in a one-run game swinging early in the count? And he said he tells his guys he has no problem with it. When he was the manager of the Cardinals, he said, you might only get one pitch to hit. And I'm sure philosophically that is the way that many people go. But I'm with you, especially if you have a reliever in there that hasn't really found his groove yet. You make him work, right? And you see if you can, and like you say, get somebody else on base, pass the baton. The more pitches that you make somebody throw, the less effective that guy is going to be. Every pitch takes something out of every pitcher.
Yeah, so much of baseball is determined by these analytics, by the statistics that are attributed to a certain player. And that leads to them feeling like they need to get a hit to lead off an inning instead of a walk. I think there's a pride element there that you want to get that hit. You want to feel like the ball is coming off the bat. And in another way, it mentally impacts the pitcher or the reliever on the mound. But to me, I don't have contracts at stake. I'm not a player that's being questioned on my hitting ability. I'm fine with taking a walk late in the game. And really, when the team is at their best, they are drawing walks and they're finding ways to just get aboard, take second, be brought in.
The Royals bullpen in game 2 yesterday was absolutely dominant. 6 innings, no runs, 2 hits. They struck out 9. And the Cardinals, and this is a credit to Kansas City more than it is an affront to the Cardinals. They didn't have a chance against those guys. They were great.
Yeah, they were really, really good. And you have Angel Serpa, high velocity, really good stuff. His delivery is a bit funky. Steven Cruz, I mean, he's 6'7". That arm angle is going to be really tough to time out. And the Cardinals weren't missing bats with their relievers. That was just the case. They had to nibble around the zone. It was 3-2 a lot. You had to find a way to maybe get them to weakly ground out. That wasn't the case with the Royals. They were getting a lot of swing and miss, 9 strikeouts from their relievers yesterday. That's a really good recipe for success in a close game, 7-5 win for the Royals. I think that's something that will be addressed as you've seen Leahy falter a bit. You've seen Matt struggle a bit and other guys that have picked up the slack, but it'll all balance out sooner rather than later, I would assume. But this is, again, a tough series this weekend after dropping back-to-back series, trying to get back on track, get motivated for the Dodgers, and then all is forgotten.
Yeah, the Cardinals have lost 4 out of 6. They're 5 behind the Cubs in the Central. And in the opener against the Dodgers tonight, Justin Robleski will go against the Cardinals' Sonny Gray. And hopefully the weather will cooperate and we'll be able to get that one in. You were lamenting the weather before we came on the air here. Has a chance to be delayed, right?
Right. Well, I'd rather it be delayed than another doubleheader. That would be
no
6 on the year. And this is a really, really intriguing start for Justin Robleski, the Dodgers team that's missing so many starters due to injury. And that's been sort of a trend for them over the last 2 or 3 years. Robleski, really good left-handed pitcher, resemblant of an old school guy, comes set, brings it over his head, high leg kick. I'm not going to say he's Kershaw-esque, but very disciplined pitcher. He's had his struggles, though, in 2 appearances this year. 8 ERA. All 8 of those runs, though, came in his only start against Washington. He gave up 2 home runs. So maybe on the road at Busch Stadium with what we expect to be a raucous, excited crowd, he could be impacted in a similar manner as he was back on April 8th.
All right, Stefan, I would take this staff. I would take this pitching staff that I'm going to tell you about right now. Tell me if you would take this staff. Starters, Tyler Glasnow, Blake Snell, Emmett Sheehan, Gavin Stone, Michael Grove. Your bullpen, Kyle Hurt, Brewster Gratterall, River Ryan, Michael Kopech, Evan Phillips, Blake Trinan. That's the group of Dodgers pitchers on the 60-day DL. And I think that's a group that could start. That you just plug that in with a lot of major league teams, and I think a lot of teams would take it.
Yeah, it's been a major issue for the Dodgers in their player development. A lot of these guys, they come up, they get injured. River Ryan looked like an electric talent. Emmett Sheehan rose through the prospect ranks. These guys all have such plus stuff, and they're spinning it, and it puts such a strain on the elbow and the shoulder and myriad places. A lot of commonalities between those guys is they're all upper 90s fastball throwers.
Max effort, right?
Yeah, max effort. But again, I'm not a sports scientist to suggest that they sign these pitchers. They have this world-renowned lineup and roster, and then guys get injured, and it's been so unfortunate. Maybe it's a way to level the playing field for the rest of the league, because who knows what the Dodgers would be if all those guys were healthy at the same time. But they have enough in the farm system to be able to turn to. It's just maybe not their first option.
And I didn't even mention Shohei Ohtani or Roki Sasaki, who's only on the 15-day IL. They are absolutely loaded, and we'll see Ohtani pitching before too long. We get to see him hit tonight. First 50-50 guy in Major League history last year. He's second in the majors this year in home runs. To me, and I've seen a lot of guys. I saw Fernando Valenzuela, and I saw Fernando Mania. I saw Lou Brock steal 118 bases here. Obviously, I saw Coleman. I saw McGuire. I saw Bo Jackson. The most exciting baseball player I've ever seen is Shohei Ohtani.
Without question. I mean, you have a leadoff hitter that's still managing to hit 50 home runs a year and steal 50 bases and be a productive major leaguer. Yes, he's the DH, but when he's pitching, he's carrying right above a 3 ERA. I mean, he's been dynamic and sensational, but you have to ask the question, is that being afforded to him not just because of his talent, but also because of the amazing lineup that he has been cemented into? Freddie Freeman is one of the best players in baseball, maybe the most underrated player in baseball. He's hitting near 370, and you don't hear anybody talking about him because Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani are in the lineup. So I think that it's been a perfect storm for Shohei. His natural abilities of being probably the best baseball player on planet Earth right now, coupled with the fact that there isn't as much pressure as there was on the Angels, has added to him breaking out to the best part of his career.
Yeah, if he is on an Angels team without Mike Trout, or let's just make a better example here. If he's playing for the Pittsburgh Pirates, he's not able to put up those numbers, is he? Because nobody's going to pitch to him.
No.
And you wouldn't blame people. But that's one of the great things about it, is that he landed in the perfect spot for Shohei Ohtani to be. And thank goodness that Joe Madden allowed him to both hit and pitch at the same time. And he's going to do that. That you don't pay a guy $700 million and say, yeah, we're only going to make you hit, because he wants to pitch. He wants to do both things, because basically he's a $40 million starter and a $30 million position player. But I'm excited about seeing him back on the mound and seeing him pitch in the National League, and how Dave Roberts and the Dodgers decide to deploy him. Will he be the DH on days that he pitches? Will he have a rest day on the day after he pitches? Will they have him not DHing? Will they just have him on the bench? And what will he want to do? I think it's a really interesting thing. And he's 30 now, right?
Right.
So I wonder, as he gets a little bit older, how doing everything will affect him.
I think that you could see a role shift for him, moving from starting to relieving, maybe being a closer at the end of the game. But his value is not, it's not just attributed to the fact that he can pitch and hit. He's as valuable of a player as just a hitter as he would be as just a pitcher.
Yeah.
So I think that you have that in your back pocket if you're the Dodgers. Hey, if this pitching thing doesn't work out, we're fine with it. We are fine with it. The return on investment for having Shohei Ohtani on their team, just from a consumer standpoint, I mean, it was such a great deal for the Dodgers to make, and to be able to defer that money, yeah, might hurt them in 10 years, but that's 10 years down the road. You are reaping in the spoils of the Shohei Ohtani experience that is the next 8-9 years.
Yeah, and think about that. Think about having a hitter like Freeman, and he's right there in terms of hitting talent, in terms of bat to ball, in terms of power. He's right there with Freeman. But then, in addition to having Freddie Freeman on your roster, you've got, when healthy, one of the best right-handers in baseball. So think about having Freddie Freeman and Zach Wheeler on your roster, and that's essentially what you have with Ohtani.
Yeah, and it's a phenomenal comparison. You have the best of both worlds. Joe Madden, I think, was lucky to have a guy like that fall into his lap, because he's the perfect manager for a player like that. He's an old school guy. He wants to see that element of the game. And I think Shohei is such an easy guy to root for, because he's a humble pro. Yes, he has camera crews following him around, but very soft-spoken. You don't hear him being so effusive and energetic. He goes about his business. He's somebody you can emulate. And you can hate the Dodgers all you want, but the blueprint, the gold standard in Major League Baseball has been Los Angeles.
No question. They, for all the money they spend it actually reasonably efficiently. I know they have all the pitchers that we just talked about on the IL, but they don't have players that are healthy and don't perform. When they give somebody a contract, generally that player performs.
Well, one of the main things for the Dodgers that you look around, not a lot of players in their system have been developed, or at least the ones that they expected to be on this roster. I don't think they expected Justin Wrobleski to need to be here in this game with all the players that they signed during the offseason. They have that. Their farm system was top 10 a few years ago. Clearly it's not anymore, because you trade away guys to get, you have to give. But you look at their lineup, there's one, maybe two players that they have developed offensively. Andy Pages, their right fielder, has been a player that they've developed. But other than that, Tommy Edman at second base, he's a Cardinal. Hae-Sung Kim was in Korea. Conforto was with the Giants and the Mets. I mean, the list goes on. Freeman with the Braves.
Even Max Muncy, who they found
from the Athletics. So this is a team that has done such a good job scouting on the pro side. And the amateur side, they've done a nice job with too, but they've also traded away a lot of really good players. Yordan Alvarez is one that comes to mind. So we'll see over the next few years if they continue to be a team that spends. I think that's the philosophy moving forward. They're certainly not hurting for the money.
No. That is Stefan Caray. I am Randy Karraker, and STL Sports Central is presented by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. St. Louis sports fans, we are into the season now, and you need to check out DraftKings Pick 6. Just go to that app, download that app, and use the promo code STL Sports. And you can get locked in on every pitch and pass and play. That's why I've teamed up with DraftKings to bring you Pick Six, the all-new way to play daily fantasy sports. As a matter of fact, today I have Sonny Gray to finish with less than 5.5 strikeouts. I hope that's okay with you guys because he is going against the Dodgers. And I am going to go out on a limb and say that Pete Alonso stays hot and hits a home run for the New York Mets. Now, if you play today, you get $50 back when you play 5 in bonus picks. That's 10 extra picks to keep the action going all week long. It's easy to start, fun to follow, and gives you a whole new way to stay connected to the game. It's DraftKings Pick 6. Download the app today and use our promo code STL Sports when you sign up. Only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Got to Indy.
The Bommarito 500 is coming up on June 15th over at Worldwide Technology Raceway. And this is not Stefan Caray. This is IndyCar driver Santino Ferrucci, who joins us in studio. Good to see you, Santino.
Oh, happy to be seen. Happy to be here in St. Louis. So
we were just talking during the break about your season. How are things going so far?
A little bit of a slow start until we got to Indy. P5 at the 500, P2 last weekend in Detroit from 21st. So heating up just in time to be back here at Gateway.
And driving the Bommarito car, right?
I am driving the Bommarito Chevrolet. So super excited. Chuck and I have been on a bit of a media tour today. And we are hanging out. Gonna, after this, go grab some lunch. And I'm loving my time here.
Okay, so I got to ask, with the last name Ferrucci, Santino Ferrucci, do you like Italian food?
I do. We're actually going for Italian food.
You're in the right spot.
Yes. I've been to the Hill.
Good.
Yeah, no, absolutely love like I said, love coming here. Love spending time in St. Louis. Chuck and his team make it all worthwhile. And like I said, it's good Italian food too. So can't complain.
Santino, how is this track at Worldwide Technology Raceway different than others?
So this place is a paperclip in a sense. So 1 and 2 are very different from 3 and 4. It's very egg-like shaped. It makes it very difficult to set the car up. You're really setting it up for turns 1 and 2, so it can rotate and get out fast. And then 3 and 4, you're kind of just hanging on, hoping to keep it flat.
So that's the thing. You hanging on is a good term for it, right?
Yes, you are definitely hanging on.
Yeah, and do you like that better? Is obviously it's really challenging. You have, as opposed to just a regular oval. Do you like one or the other better?
They're all fun. I think with the car this year, it's been a little bit more difficult to drive. Anywhere that we can pass or run 2 lanes is what makes me happy. Mm-hmm. Milwaukee's been a good one. Iowa's been a good one. Gateway, now that we're running back under the lights, will be very solid. So when you get that cooler temperature, the air picks up, gets nice and heavy. We can actually run the second lane up in 1 and 2, and it'll be some really good racing for Father's Day weekend. What's
the hottest you've ever raced in? Because we've had some hot races here in St. Louis.
Yeah, the hottest car I've ever been in was an Xfinity's car. Got about 140 in the Poconos. Then the hottest I've ever been in the IndyCar, it was we were in Nashville at a street course race, and the ambient outside was about 105, and so inside the car it's about 130 in those things. So we were all cooking. Everybody was little sweaty.
Okay, so this is something that we don't know. How do you hydrate? Do you have like a huge thing that you suck water out of? How do you hydrate while you're driving?
So important for me, I try not to overhydrate myself. Really? So a lot of drivers just can't get enough water. For me, I'm pretty easy. I'm lucky because I'm small. But we have a Camelback system in the car, and it's like what you'd use in hiking, and toss it on your back. So it sits inside the cockpit. The problem is if you don't drink the water fast enough, you get it like a hot day. You're drinking boiling water. So so the first couple sips are nice, and then like you're trying to like sip it and spit it out until you get back to like the slightly cooler water again.
Good. Have you always been that way? Because you started as a go-kart kid, right?
I did.
So have you always been, you don't need to drink water or hydrate during a race?
Yeah, my wife always makes fun of me for it. She's like, I don't know how you operate without ever drinking any water. I was like, I have a bottle of water and I'm hydrated for the day. I'm good.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we mentioned go-karts. When was, and do you even remember the first time you drove something with 4 wheels or 4 tires?
I was 4 tires, yes. I think my parents got me like one of those plastic Jeeps that you buy at Walmart.
Uh-huh.
I actually burned the wheels off of it. So I went through a set of tires on that thing before I even started with go-karts. So I'd always make my parents nervous because I try to parallel park it between their cars in the driveway.
So you're the natural.
Yeah. So it's the only thing I've ever liked doing is driving, and
cool.
Started go-karts when I was 5 years old. And here we are, over 20 years later, full time in IndyCar.
So when did you graduate from go-karts to the next thing, whatever the car was?
So I was about 13, 14 years old. I graduated into Skip Barber. So little Skippy school, got my racing license, and moved from there into Formula Ford. So a little H pattern action, and then FIA F3 over in Europe to all the way up to test driving Formula One, and then back in IndyCar. Was
IndyCar always the goal for you?
No, Formula One was the goal for me for almost my entire career up until about 2017, 2018. Just, the way that my career was progressing, then what it would take to get to Formula One was just, they got the series they want to have you or they don't. So versus also your talents kind of get wasted in Formula One if you're not with a top team. So it made no sense to run around and fight for 15th, in my opinion. I mean, I'm an athlete and a race car driver. Showing up and the best you can do is 15th is not something I want to do.
And so obviously then you're a competitive guy. Tell us about race day. If you're 80% into the race, we've got 100 miles left at the Bommarito 500 and you're sitting there in fourth place. How much does your competitiveness kick in?
Oh man, you just want to start leading there. So this is this race, unlike the others, this is a race that if you can get out front early, you take it. And then you just try to run out front best you can. I led 100 laps of this race in 2019, and I wasn't ready to give up the lead, regardless of fuel number. I was just decided I'd catch lap traffic and let lap traffic be the way that I save fuel. So this race in particular, if you can get out front, you try to stay out front. Indy's different. Indy, you kind of want to wait until the last stint's over and then take the lead. But here it's kind of all out.
Yeah. Do you have, obviously you do because you're doing the same thing. Who are your buddies on the IndyCar circuit?
Man, that's a great question. Far and few between. Will Power is one of my friends. Past that, it's getting scarce. Maybe Felix Rosenquist.
Okay. Is that because of the competitiveness or just because you don't see each other? The reason that I started it that way, and like a guy like Will Power that you're friends with, do you want to beat him any more or less because?
Oh, we always want to beat each other. I mean, we wouldn't be race car drivers if we didn't want to do that. But we can have a very good race. Like there's certain kids in the series that, I know that if I'm racing them, I'm not hesitant to put them in a wall or to get by them because they don't have respect. I have a lot of respect for the people that have been there, like Dixon or Power, and they've treated me very fairly coming into the series. So you race them hard, but you race them clean. So that's why. And then obviously I don't live in Indy or Charlotte. So
where do you live?
I'm in Dallas currently. Okay. So Dallas in Florida. And, if I, spend time with them, my friends are outside of racing. Okay. So good. It's also more fun for me because I don't have to talk about my day job all the time.
That's true. So that's a good point. Because you have to do that all the time. So when are you a sports fan? When you talk to your buddies that aren't race car drivers, what do you like?
Man, one of my best friends, I'm sure he's like upset he's not here because he'd love to talk to you. He's a massive sports fan. Really? Yeah, I always make fun of him. He's a Jets fan. So they had a rough
He's loyal.
Season. He's a very loyal Jets fan. For me, I like players more so than I like teams because I like seeing things that what players can do, and I appreciate talents. As far as like MLB goes, love the Yankees. Grew up a Yankee fan. My grandfather was, my dad was. So big Yankee guy.
The Joe Torre years then, the little dynasty that they had there?
It was, oh my gosh. I followed it a lot back when in like 2006, 7, and 8. Okay. So I'm blanking on the catcher. Catcher was my favorite.
Jorge Posada.
Yes, Posada. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I was to say you're going to know. Posada was my favorite. Yeah. And then obviously I was a Giants fan. So I liked Eli Manning. So he won a couple of Super Bowls. So, and then obviously as my racing career took off and I started spending more time in Europe, I haven't been able to follow as much. I have gone to quite a few Pacer games though.
Oh, cool. Good for you.
I went to a playoff. I went to the Eastern Champ. I think I went to Game 5 for the
Knicks
Eastern
Pacers.
Yeah.
That's
oh my
great.
God. That was a great game. I've also went to one of the blowout games that they had playing. I forget who they played before they played the Knicks.
Cleveland, right?
Yeah, Cleveland. Yeah, they had a 40-point lead going into the second.
Oh,
That was pretty wild. I mean, my wife's not a sports fan, but when we went, I told her, I was like, you're witnessing something that never happens in playoff basketball. Also, playoff basketball is just wild to watch.
And being there, it's one thing on TV, another thing altogether to be there.
It's crazy. I mean, me and my friend got hooked up with tickets to go sit underneath the basket on the court, second row, and I mean, we were getting text messages from our friends like, you guys are on TV, like screaming your heads off. I was like, yeah, we're into it.
And you know what? It's not unlike IndyCar racing or any racing. It's one thing to watch it on TV. It's a different animal altogether to be at a race live, right?
Yes. I mean, just the excitement, like the Indy 500 alone, people, when you go to like a typical, say Super Bowl, it's only got 80,000 people there. Maybe 100,000 depending on the stadium. Indy has 350,000 plus. So you're talking about greatest single day sporting event in the world. So it's just insane to go to. And another race that I like and enjoy, not saying it because we're here, but is Gateway, St. Louis. The way that Bommarito sets this race up, the way that they do the turn 4 suites, I go out there and hang out. It is like a mini Indy. So it's pretty awesome to be a part of.
We're excited about you coming in and winning this thing on June 15th.
I've been really close, so I feel like this place owes me one. We'll see what we can do.
Santino, great to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Appreciate it.
That's Santino Ferrucci, and you'll be able to watch him at the Bommarito 500 coming up on June 15th over at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Tickets available at www.raceway.com. And we want you to know about the Fenton Bar and Grill. I know they're going for Italian today, but if you want some spectacular wings, go to the Fenton Bar and Grill. Best trashed wings that you will ever have. And you'll see in just a moment the great trashed wings as they get coated by that signature golden sauce. It is absolutely wonderful. The crowd over at the Fenton Bar and Grill will take care of you. Megan and Jamie and Casey and the whole crew, they're so much fun. And if you're want some health food, well, you can get a salad there. You can get some terrific wraps, or if you want to go with those trashed wings, if you want to get yourself a burger, if you want to get yourself some great toasted ravs, they've got a wonderful menu, and everything you eat over at the Fenton Bar and Grill is great. So it puts everything together. You got a great crew to serve you. You'll love them. You've got a great clientele. You're going to be watching sports, talking sports at the Fenton Bar and Grill. And of course, you're going to enjoy that great food. If you want to watch some baseball, basketball, or hockey over the weekend, there's going to be something on every single TV there. You'll have a wonderful time. It's the Fenton Bar and Grill, just 2 minutes away from the soccer park on Rudder Road in Fenton. You can learn more at FentonBarandGrill.com. By all means, get to the Fenton Bar and Grill this weekend. And when you go, tell them Randy sent you. All right, we're going to get to Bernie in just a moment. Santino talked a little bit about the Indiana Pacers, who won last night. The only lead they had was with 0.3 of a second left when Tyrese Halliburton hit a jumper. They were down 15 with 9:42 to go, came back late and took down the Thunder. The Thunder, by the way, minus 700 to win this thing. And what a game. And I don't know if it'll be a great series, but we talked about the Pacers earlier. They are unbelievable.
Yeah, they really are. And Tyrese Halliburton continues to be one of the most clutch players in the National Basketball Association. Even in this playoff stretch, he's had time after time where he's tied the game or taken a late lead. I saw a compilation of his clutch moments of tying the game or shots made inside of 2 minutes in a close game. It was like a 3-minute video of this year alone. The guy this really rises to the occasion. I think the Pacers took the whole, hey, this isn't even going to be a series. The Thunder are too much, very personally, and they continue to play Pacers basketball. So good for Carlisle and the Pacers.
And there's a stat right there. Tyrese Halliburton, 6 for 7 when taking a shot to tie or take the lead in the final 90 seconds of the fourth or overtime this playoffs. The most set shots in a single postseason since 1997. That's pretty incredible. He is unbelievable. And that just can't happen to the Oklahoma City Thunder, not with their defense. And they, as great as Indiana was, the Thunder let that one get away.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were kind of discouraged by what this series is going to look like. It's two small market teams. I think now they understand these are the two best teams. They want it. They want the title. And we'll see how the Thunder really respond to that. You know they have the offensive weapons. You know that they have Chet Holmgren defending the paint. But I mean, to be up 15 at home with all the energy and the momentum and really sort of cruising through that game. When I looked, it was like 92-79 with just a little bit of time left. That's a tough pill to swallow. It's almost like the Cardinals game on Tuesday. Not to bring it back to the Cardinals. You have the lead at home. You should finish it, but you just didn't.
Well, and especially a situation where, like in baseball, you allow the other team to beat themselves. Indiana turning it over 25 times and Oklahoma City turning it over once, and Oklahoma City still lost the game. Pretty amazing. And there you see the statistic with Halliburton, 917 in those particular situations that we talked about. All right, Lex Luthor, Tyrese Halliburton, the next face of the NBA, could be. If they go on to win this thing, he'll be right there at the top. I think as long as LeBron plays, he's going to be the face of the NBA. I think there are other people, Steph Curry, obviously, as long as he's around. But there are some people that are rising up and will get the opportunity to have that role. I think Anthony Edwards is going to be one of those guys. I think that SGA, being the MVP, will be one of those guys. Halliburton certainly is going to be in the conversation.
Yeah, well, and it's sort of a recency bias thing, right? Halliburton's numbers, I don't think he was a guy that's getting close to 25, 30 points per game on average, but he does so many other things well, and he's the right player for that team. They have a lot of different options there with Pascal Siakam. They have Obi Toppin. They have just a good team, and that's, I think, what has helped the Pacers really stand out in a group of really solid National Basketball Association teams this postseason. So, I mean, you're the best player on the best team. I think there's a case to be made, but there are a lot of teams that I think didn't make it to the finals this year that have some equally deserving players for maybe the new face of the NBA.
All right, let's get to some of your chats before we get to Bernie, who is going to be with us. Matthew, what do you got for us?
I just wanted to point out, because I was doing some stat diving here, and I found this fascinating about this game. This is the first time since Game 3 of 2016 that a team finished without a single 20-point score in a finals game. The Pacers did not have a 20-point score, which makes it the first time since Game 3 of the 2013 finals that the winning team did not have a 20-point score. Diving into this deeper, I checked every finals going back into the merger in 1976. Since 1976, we're talking right now about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the seventh instance since 1976 that a team won an NBA finals game without having a 20-point score. Wow. 7 times in 50 years of NBA finals. You just don't see it. By the way, this is insane. In the last 50 years that I was able to find, the lowest scoring player to lead a team in scoring with 14 points, Shaquille O'Neal, in the 2004 finals. I led the Lakers with 14.
That's amazing, because I was going to say, I'll bet that didn't happen with specifically any of the Phil Jackson teams, but there's Shaq. That's pretty incredible. Okay. Bill Downton asks, can we out-hit the Dodgers? I think if everything's equal, if you have the same pitcher and the same pitches, okay, maybe a pitching machine, I don't think the Cardinals can out-hit the Dodgers. Do you?
I do really? Think they can out-hit the Dodgers. And the reason being, the Cardinals have been one of the best offenses in baseball, and they're going to see pitchers that aren't the typical stars of the Dodgers. They're going to see pitchers that are struggling. They are probably going to see Tanner Scott, who is struggling. So if you look at the Dodgers as a team that is not beatable, then you're already up a creek. You have no chance. Remember, they competed with the Detroit Tigers, who are the best team in baseball, kind of by a wide margin at this point in time. The Dodgers are scuffling a little bit because of injury. Now, am I going to say that compared to each other, roster head-to-head, that the Dodgers don't have the better roster? No, that would be insane to say that the Dodgers don't have a better roster. But I think the Cardinals have been able to out-hit some teams that are in a different level in terms of their organizational progression. So I think they can out-hit the Dodgers. I don't know if it'll be for the full series, but I think that they will have their flashes of brilliance. And I think if there's anything we know about this team is they're resilient.
No doubt.
They come back and they find ways to motivate themselves and to get motivated for games. If you can't get motivated for these 3, then why even play the rest of the season? Get motivated for these 3 and prove to the world what you can do.
See Ramirez on the chat. This team is still playing better than anyone expected. Bring on the Dodgers. Let's go. I think that's one thing that we have to keep in mind, that not many people expected the Cardinals to be over 500, to be second in their division. And we have to be rational about what this team's plans were coming into the season, and then how the players and the manager have forced them to kind of think about what the plans might be, depending on where they are when the trade deadline occurs, because this was a developmental year. The Cardinals were very transparent about that. And I think that the players have played better as a group than even the people that put the team together thought they would.
Yeah, I think so. And even last year, they were 4 games above 500 at the end of the season, and it was like the sky was falling, which was an improvement from 2 years ago. So they've continued to improve. They've continued to impress. I think one of the things that we all were concerned about is if the Cardinals had an outside chance of making the postseason, you felt like it was going to be through the wild card. And even so difficult. Phillies with the Padres, the Giants, all the teams in the National League West that have occupied the majority of those spots. Now the Cardinals are kind of right in that mix, and we've gotten a little greedy. You start thinking about the division too much. The Cubs, I think Dave Green was showing me a stat. They have a couple of pitchers that have combined for like 75 innings scoreless as a relief corps, which is just unbelievable to think about, which is why they've been so successful against some teams that are struggling. But this is a Cardinals team that, again, I don't think we have to temper our expectations for. Yes, we can hold them accountable because they are maybe ahead of schedule, but let's be grateful and gracious of the fact that they're well managed. They play a good brand of baseball, and that might be a prerequisite for what's to come for this team.
Yeah, and there's the chat that we're talking about. They have 6 guys currently combining for a 75-inning earned run scoreless streak. Keller 20, Pomerantz 14.2, Flexen 14.1, Thielbar 11, Presley 10, and Palencia 5. That is pretty amazing, especially when you think about where they went to get those guys.
Right, and it could be misleading considering the last 3 weeks they haven't played very good teams, but the teams they played in April, and everybody wants to go to the excuse, hey, the Cubs have the easiest schedule in the month of May. Yeah, they do, by a long shot, but their month of April was ridiculous. I mean, they had the Dodgers twice. They had to fly to a different country where they lost both games, by the way, and they still came out on top. Now, I will not make a comment on the quality of the Cubs versus the Cardinals until the two teams play each other, which will be July 4th, which is going to be a lot of fun in Chicago. And then they have a homestand here before that I think will be really telling, a 4-game series. But yeah, these are really, really good teams. The Cardinals are a really good team. And I think that both teams will continue to get better. The Cubs have more in their farm system. So, yeah, it's just a really fun year. And the NL Central, I think, will draw a lot of attention.
Well, and the Cardinals have some really, really good players that we like here. But the Cubs have a guy in Pete Crow Armstrong who is quickly ascending to that status of an overall superstar. Everything that he's doing this year, he's playing Gold Glove quality defense. He's hitting for power. He's running. He's proving himself to be the 5-tool player that the Mets gave up when they got Javi Baez from Chicago. And Pete Crow Armstrong, he's going to be the all-star center fielder, right? He's that good.
Yeah, you'd certainly think so. He reminds me a lot of Corbin Carroll, who I have a lot of personal connection to. And he's having probably even a better campaign than Corbin did in his first year, which is insane to think about. You were wondering what the power was going to be like. Is he going to be able to hit for average? But the thing about PCA that's so exciting is you can put him anywhere in the order and he still hits.
Yeah.
He'll hit leadoff. He'll be the cleanup man. It's like every game you see him with 3 runs batted in, a 2-run home run. The sky's the limit for what he could be. And he has that dynamic sort of electrifying personality, both on the field and off the field, that's perfect for Chicago and perfect for a fan base that needs a player like that to reinvigorate the group.
Yeah, he's something. And then Tucker, if Tucker is healthy, I mean, I was kind of happy as a Cardinal fan that they gave up Bellinger, because I thought if they had Tucker and Bellinger, this was before the emergence of Armstrong, I thought, okay, that'll be a little bit better lineup. That's a pretty good lineup, even with Bellinger gone and with Pete Crow Armstrong and Tucker when they're both in there together.
Yeah, I'd say a Suzuki. I mean, he had 50 RBIs like a week and a half ago. They're stacking up runs batted in. In fact, you look at the numbers of the Cubs, they have the highest run differential in the National League. They're up 106 runs. The next closest team is the Dodgers, 76. So they've outscored teams by 30 more runs than the Dodgers have outscored teams. So there's a bit of a difference between these two squads, and can't wait to see them both against the Cardinals in the coming weeks.
Stefan and Randy with you, and we do have a new name, STL Sports Central, presented by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Every Friday, we get a chance to talk to our friend Bernie Miklasz, and we're going to see him pretty soon hop up on that window here on
there we go.
Central. Morning, Bernard. How you doing?
Well, it's great to be with you, and Stefan, really nice to work with you. I've really enjoyed all of the stuff you've done on the post game live streams. You're excellent at your job, so I'm glad you're part of STL Sports Central. I mean that sincerely.
Well, Bernie, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and it's awesome following your columns years ago and just the interactions. It's amazing. So thank you so much for the kind words.
No, it's awesome. I'm just going to brag, since we have the name change and everything else, and I got to just say this. I am so proud to work for STL Sports Central because every time I go online, and a lot of times I do it later at night, it just blows me away how much great content there is. And coming from so many people, and it's really, we're growing and growing and growing. And it's just really, it's really an exciting site and an exciting endeavor. And man, I'm so glad that I'm here working with you two and everyone else.
I second that motion, Bernie. All right, let's talk about the Cardinals. Sure. They've lost 4 out of 6. They lose 2 of 3 to the Royals. Any concern on your part? And I know you voiced some concerns even before this started, but any concern just about the record of 2-4 in the last 6?
Yeah, they've lost consecutive series, and you don't want to see that happen. But on the other hand, I think a reasonable view on this is that they were so scorching hot, they were going to level off. All teams cool off when they've been that hot. And I know maybe some people don't want to hear it, but that's baseball. That's just the way it goes. Like, for example, the LA Dodgers are in town tonight, right? And it's a 3-game series, and they're obviously a formidable opponent. But do you know, here's one of my stats of the day for you. Do you know that since April 11th, the Cardinals have a better record than the Dodgers? It's 1 game, but it's still pretty astonishing if you think about it that way. But it just shows you the ups and downs that come along in 162 games. But to specifically answer your question, I am concerned about the starting pitching because since May the 20th, the Cardinals are 7-7 since May the 20th. The Cardinals have a starting pitching ERA of 5.28. That ranks 27th in the majors, and only Colorado's got a lousier ERA among National League teams. And if you take away Sonny Gray's work over that time, 13 innings pitched, 13 innings pitched at three earned runs allowed. The other 4 starters, Pallante, Miklasz, Liberatore, and Fetty, have a combined ERA of 5.93. So that's going to have to change. I'm not going to say they have to be like a phenomenal starting rotation, but they can't be a liability. Or the Cardinals, it's going to be tough for them to keep pace with some of the best teams in the National League.
I think that's a really good point, Bernie. And tonight they turned to Sonny Gray, who in many respects has been the stopper of some bad streaks for the Cardinals. What do you make of him after his last start and his ability to strike out 10, not allow any runs? It might be a really tough ask against the Dodgers, but if there's anybody that can kind of get this team re-energized from a pitching standpoint, it's got to be the ace.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that he's starting the first game because they need him because he's been going better than anybody else. And of course, we're all waiting to see what's going to be next for Matthew Liberatore. Fetty's capable of throwing a good game this weekend. He's sort of up and down. I don't frankly have much confidence in Pallante. And listen, I got to tip my cap to Miles Michaelis because we expect him to implode or something. And he continues to do a really solid job. And so they have people that can raise the level of this rotation the way they've been, over the last 14, 15 games. And then, of course, we're anticipating Michael McGreevy is going to get a shot. But I get, me, man, Mr. Research, this Dodgers offense is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. If you go by like adjusted OPS plus, they have like 5 of their 10, the 10 guys that got the most plate appearances this year for the Dodgers. Like 5 of the 10 are like 50% above league average offensively or higher. And, 6 of them are 37% above league average or higher. And 8 of the 10 are above league average, at least 20% above league average. So how do you stop them? I mean, this is a team that's second to the Cubs in the majors in runs. They're first in batting average. They're first in OPS. They're first in slugging. They're first in batting average with runners in scoring position. They are so deep from 1 through 9. And this is going to be to say the least, a really challenging series for all the Cardinals pitchers. But there is an opening. The Dodgers pitching has not been very good. In fact, I know that the injuries have sort of chewed them up, but they haven't been all that hot lately. In fact, the Cardinals, if you go back a certain amount of time, I mean, the Cardinals, have a better team ERA and a better fielding independent ERA. And I updated some stats this morning on one thing, and let me find that for you. Sorry. The Dodgers this year, they have had 17 pitchers on the injured list, and those 17 pitchers have combined to miss 911 games. So naturally, the Dodgers pitching staff has taken a blow here. Now, Kershaw is back. A couple of other guys are back, but they're still missing, first of all, 5 relievers who were on the IL who were part of their postseason run last year. They don't have Blake Snell. They don't have Tyler Glasnow. They don't have Roki Sasaki, who they signed out of Japan. And so the Dodgers have not been all that formidable as a team lately because they have to win high-scoring games. And so I don't mean to simplify this, and I probably am. But the Cardinals' offense is, we know that the Cardinals' pitchers are going to have to rise to the challenge. But the Cardinals' offense has better be clicked in because I think they're going to have opportunities to score a lot of runs, and you got to assume the Dodgers will score their runs because they always do just about. So the Cardinals hitters need to be on top of their game as well this weekend.
And Bernie, you mentioned all those Dodgers hitters, and they can reasonably expect that they're going to have 3 or 4 guys at some point that are going to be hot. Since Jordan Walker went down, the Cardinals have hit 210 with a 295 on base, 310 slug, and just a 605 OPS. Now, small sample size,
Sure.
But he was hot when he got hurt. Now, you do have Herrera back, and hopefully he'll get hot. But the Dodgers can afford to have 1 or 2 of their guys not be hot. I don't think the Cardinals can do that.
No, and there's some guys, and as much as we appreciate it, and I'm not disparaging Victor Scott, for example. He's been a marvel, and he's still a very young player, but he has really kind of, what's the word? I'm not going to say collapsed, but he's really receded offensively.
Faded.
Yeah, he's faded. That's a good number. And I know Nolan Arenado is coming up with some big hits, but if you look at his overall batting statistics over the last 30, 35 games or so, it's not very impressive. And they've had some other people level off as well, and the Cardinals can't afford to have too many guys leveling off or receding offensively. Not that they have to be at the top of their game the entire time, but they've had some problem spots in that lineup. They're not getting any offense from the catching position, for example, not much. Although Pedro Pages is a terrific defensive catcher, so that offsets the offensive shortages. But yeah, the Cardinals offense just continues to be too inconsistent. They're capable of doing great things, but they've had too many games this year where they've only scored 1 run or no runs.
I really like the point that you made there, Randy, about Jordan Walker, because it's really a point that you can look back on as the Cardinals began to struggle a little bit. Yesterday, watching the games, it felt like 7, 8, and 9 couldn't produce for the Cardinals at all. And you get to the bottom of the order after you have players like Herrera getting aboard or Contreras, and you're expecting them to do all the driving in. Well, if an inning starts with those 3, it's tough for them to produce runs or to manufacture runs. How do you feel about the lineup construction, regardless of splits, and keeping Burleson in right instead of one of the guys that has been called up from AAA?
Burley makes you nervous out there, but I can't really trash him defensively. I think given the magnitude of the offense he's providing, and especially when there's a right-handed pitcher on the mound, I mean, he's got to be out there, and he should be playing right field. I mean, yeah, there may be a couple of balls here and there he doesn't get to, but it's not like he's atrocious out there. I think you always trade some offense you're always willing to trade some defense in exchange for a hitter who's putting up very robust numbers, and that's what Burleson is doing. The thing I wrestle with is I think you do keep running Victor Scott out there all the time, but I don't know. I think there's going to be a time where maybe you got to be a little more selective about starting him against left-handed pitching, knowing that you have him in reserve to where the other side goes to a right-handed pitcher, or when you have a lead and you want your best defensive team out there. It's not like if you are more selective about using Victor Scott, it's not like he's going to be buried. It's not like he's like, well, where's Victor Scott? No, he'll be involved in games quite a bit. But I think maybe one thing that can help him is to just let him sort of get his stuff together offensively. And I think the best way to do that is to use him against as many right-handed starting pitchers as possible, and maybe a few less left-handed starting pitchers than he has been.
Yeah, Bernie, what did you think of Liberatore leaving last night after 70 pitches?
Well, I thought it was very distressing at first. And, he wasn't very good at Texas, although he battled through that. He's a great competitor. But, anytime a guy's velocity drops and then you see, the manager and the pitching coach kind of hustling out to the mound with the proliferation of pitching injuries in baseball, it's unbelievable how many the pitching injuries just never stop. So when you see the manager and the pitching coach hustling out there with a look of concern, you right away think of a worst case scenario. But it seems like the Cardinals dodged a worst case scenario. I think they were being truthful last night when they downplayed it, and Liberatore downplayed it. But there will be some testing, and I just hope for everybody's sake that it's kind of turned out to be, or will turn out to be, nothing more than a scare. Now, would it make sense to maybe not let him skip a start or something? That's up for them to decide. But in theory, that seems like a sensible thing to do if they choose to go that way.
You haven't had a very reliable bullpen if you're St. Louis over the last couple of weeks. The struggles of Kyle Leahy have been noticeable. Just a group that isn't missing bats very much. And if Liberatore goes on the IL, that kind of eliminates the possibility of using an opener or going with a bullpen game to fill up some space, especially in this stretch. You got your hands tied behind your back. How likely do you feel like it is that we're going to see Michael McGreevy here? And if that's the case, how likely is it, do you think he stays up here?
I think it's got to be a lock that he's up here, maybe as soon as Sunday. That's the speculation. It's pretty informed speculation, but I think he's got to stay in that rotation because, number one, I'm not saying they will be trying to be more careful with Liberatore for a while, but that's at least a possibility. With Palante having an ERA of 5.80 over his last 9 starts, you're going to bring McGreevy up, but you're still going to be a little thin in terms of quality in that rotation. So I think if McGreevy pitches well, McGreevy's got to stay. I mean, because if he does what we think he can do, he would be maybe their third best starting pitcher. And that's perhaps optimistic, but I've just been so impressed with him, small sample or whatever, when they've given him the ball. The one thing I wonder about, and I'm going to ask Ali Marmol this early next week, you don't want to rush people to the majors. I get that. But Takeo Roby is having a awesome season down at AA. I'm not sure why the Cardinals haven't moved him up to AAA to give him some work there and get him one step closer to the majors, because I could see a scenario where they would have to reach deeper into their minor league system to maybe have a starter with good stuff that they can plug in when they need it, right? So I just, I wonder, so it's a runway season, I guess, to be cute with words. I think they maybe should try to move him up on the runway a little bit to where he can at least see St. Louis off in the distance.
And Bernie, Roby named the Cardinal minor league pitcher of the month for the month of May too. So the timing is good. Hey, I want to ask you about Jerry Reinsdorf. He bought the White Sox in 1981. He's selling the team now to the brother of the owner of the Phoenix Suns. That hasn't gone particularly well. No. But Jerry Reinsdorf, 7 in 44 years, 7 playoff appearances. He goes to the LCS 3 times in 44 years. They go to the World Series once and lose it. Good owner, bad owner, mediocre owner. What do you think of Reinsdorf as a baseball owner?
Bad owner.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I just issue a summary judgment there. There's not much nuance, but it's just been a long time since they've been like really relevant. Listen, Tony La Russa got him into the playoffs. Say what you want about him that one year, and they were a one and done. They had a really good team, and that window closed on them very, very soon. And so we all thought maybe that'd be a good team for 3 or 4 or 5 years, and it just all fell apart. And Jerry's getting up there. So am I. Some people would say
he's 89.
I'm not 89. He's still got a couple decades on me, but yeah, I mean, you look at the way and I know you used baseball just to talk about baseball, but even the way they broke up the Bulls before he had to. That just, it wasn't necessary. They probably could have won another championship or two. And it started with that. And they had a great 2005. They won it all. But other than that, they've just been irrelevant on the major league landscape. And even if you are the second team in a city as massive as Chicago, you got to be better than that. You should never be irrelevant, for more than just where you just have a downturn, maybe a couple years, you're retooling or whatever. And they've just been way too irrelevant.
Yeah, they're certainly rebuilding a lot in their farm system. I've developed really good relationships with a lot of their scouts, and they have more of an old-fashioned approach in the White Sox system. They have really, really good people that work for them and have a lot of positive things to say about Jerry Reinsdorf, the man, as a boss. But this team has inexcusably been bad, especially in that market. And there's always the question, hey, is the team going to move to Nashville, or are they going to be relocated when MLB decides to expand? So we'll see how that all pans out. I want to talk a little bit about the Cardinals tonight against the Dodgers. Obviously, the weather barring a game. What do you think the attendance is going to be like? And do you think it's because it's a weekend series against the Dodgers, or because the people are starting to buy back into this team?
I'm really curious. I'm glad you asked the question, because a video that I just recorded for our site, I mentioned it. So I wonder if they're going to get 35,000 plus for these games. And I know the weather's
I can tell you they're expecting 40,000 plus for each of the 3 games.
Great.
Each game should be the biggest attendance they've had since opening day.
That's great. And I hope the weather cooperates. I just looked at it a little while ago. It does not seem there is not it's not foreboding. I mean, it could be problematic, especially maybe Saturday, as far as just like getting through the game unscathed. But it doesn't look like there's going to be any extended period. If these weather forecasts are accurate, it doesn't look like there's going to be any like extended period of rain that will wipe out one of the games. So let's hope they get through it. I wish Cardinals fans who are on the sideline, and I understand they have their grievances, and a lot of the grievances have merit, because I don't think the Cardinals, everything goes in cycles, but yet the Cardinals could have done more to prevent their downturn. But that said, their downturn compared to what other teams go through, their downturn, it's like laughable that, people are just outraged, that the Cardinals have not been as prominent on the October stage. But they never should have let the minor leagues fall apart. And because Bill DeWitt, that's his baby. I've spent hours talking to him about this. They should have never fallen behind with that. They should have never fallen behind in analytics and, the front office staffing of analytics and funding of analytics. They got away from some of the things that they were doing great that gave them sustained success, including payroll efficiency, which is not a dirty 2-word phrase. It's actually payroll efficiency. Every time I use that on a video or whatever, people are like, no, Bernie, why don't you just tell the truth? They're being cheap. No, they're not. Payroll efficiency means this. Number 1, do not spend money foolishly and waste it on talent that is not worth the money and is not going to elevate your team. Number 2, spend your money wisely and make shrewd decisions where you're going to get a lot of value for your dollars. And number 3, whatever you decide to do at the major league level, you've got to have your player development system and your farm system and the number of instructors and the facilities and the technology and the teaching. All of that should be up there with every really great team in baseball. That's what payroll efficiency is. And Cardinals fans, some need to remember their own franchise history. He brought in Jeff Luhnow because he wanted more payroll efficiency, because as much as he thought of Walt Jocketty, the Cardinals were having to go outside all the time to add players. And Bill DeWitt was correct when he said that's not sustainable because the cost of players is going to go up. Some of these trades we were able to take advantage of. Teams in the future are not going to give us Jim Edmonds. They're not going to give us Mark McGwire, you know. So we have to like really, really buckle down and make our farm system, our player development system, our drafts, all of that, especially developing pitchers, it's got to get a lot better. And that's what Jeff Luhnow did. So when somebody uses the word like me, payroll, or the term payroll efficiency, no, it has nothing to do with being cheap. It has everything to do with being smart. And if Chaim Bloom can get this up and running in the minors, also the front office operation, all the stuff where they've been lacking in analytics and everything else, because they're way behind the curve in the major leagues. Then if you have an efficient payroll because you have so many good young players that you're growing your own and they're not into the big money stages yet, then you can top off your roster with supplemental talent from the outside. That's exactly what Bill DeWitt did for the longest time. But they haven't been producing enough players. But I think this year, and I'm sorry that I'm going on and on, but it's all connected. Mm-hmm. I think this year is a perfect example of what payroll efficiency means. They've got a mostly homegrown team. They're letting them play, develop players play. And at a payroll that's somewhere between 135 and 140 million, the Cardinals have been winning. They're as of today, they've won more games than 6 teams that have spent at least $200 million on payroll this year. So why would I call, in this context, why would I call the Cardinals cheap? They're not being cheap. They're maximizing the talent they have, and they're doing it in a way where they're building something, but yet they'll have enough room in the payroll to add talent during the offseason. Why would anyone rip them for that? I don't get it. Like, I don't hesitate to rip the Cardinals when they deserve it, but this actually 25 is setting up very nicely for 2026. And Mozeliak has done a good job of basically getting this thing ready for Chaim Bloom. Sorry, Randy, go ahead, buddy.
No, but you're preaching to the choir. Signing Brett Cecil for $30.5 million over 4 years isn't cheap. It's inefficient. Signing Andrew Miller for 48 over 4 isn't cheap. It's inefficient. Signing Dexter Fowler for 5 years and 82.5 isn't cheap. It's inefficient. Mike Leake, 82 over 4. It's not cheap. It's inefficient. Right. Giving Matt Carpenter the extension they gave him, not cheap. It's inefficient. It's not the amount of money they spend. It's the value that they get out of the amount of money that they spend. Even the Dodgers are more efficient than the Cardinals have been at spending money.
You know, and the thing, and I've said this for years, and I'm going to repeat it here, you know, when I was doing, sports talk radio, it's like, I don't, because it gets back to what we're all saying here, all three of us. I don't need Bill DeWitt to do stupid things with the payroll to kind of prove some point to me. I'm not one of these payroll. It's all about the payroll. The people who act like that are they're basically clueless. And, so Bill doesn't have to do dumb things to earn my respect. I would prefer that they do smart things. And smart things also means that they won't have to spend as much money. And why would a fan or anyone care if they're having a better team while spending less money? I think that's a good thing myself. Yeah,
I agree with that point. I think that when you're talking about something that is a smart thing to do, I assume you're mentioning extending some of the players that you've already developed for cheap, right? Or cheaper than they would if they hit the open market. Right. And you see a lot of these team-friendly deals. Corbin Carroll, Bobby Witt is a team-friendly deal if you really look at his production level. The Red Sox with Cedar Rafaela and their new second baseman this season. Yeah, exactly. So if you are Chaim Bloom or you're John Mozeliak, which players are you extending and who's at the top of your priority list?
Well, I guess I'm going to take a pragmatic approach to answering this. I think Brendan Donovan's a really, really important player. and he represents what you want the Cardinals to be. He represents those qualities. But if we're talking about a long-term contract, when I say long-term, I don't know, can we come up with an arbitrary number? Would it be 7 years? Would it be 8 years, 10 years at the most? I would say Mason Wynn would be the wiser investment because of his age, and I don't think he's even close to reaching his ceiling. He's also the type of guy you want to represent the Cardinals, and he's a developing leader on that team too. He just goes about everything impressively. And again, he still has so much upside offensively. So this isn't me saying that he's a better player than Brendan Donovan, or me saying, no, I wouldn't worry about Donovan. I'm not saying that. But you also have to factor in Donovan's age, and he's 28. So if you're talking about a 7 or 8 year deal, it kind of gets you in that danger zone of age decline, unless you pay him a very high, annual average salary, really high, and make it a shorter deal, say 5 years. I mean, does that make sense to you guys, what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's what you have to do. I think that's the play.
Well, and it's also a question of sustainability. That's why the Red Sox have gotten away with it. They almost ambush their players with super team-friendly deals because they know the quicker that you get that deal done,
right,
the more time you have to get another deal done later in your career. And when you're 29, 30 years old, you can still sign for hundreds of millions of dollars. If you look around the league, it's sort of an ageless wonder with Shohei Ohtani. I mean, they've extended him into his late 30s, early 40s. I think if you're a young player, if a team comes to you with a deal and says, hey, we want to pay you X amount of dollars, that gives you financial security that you didn't have because you're fresh out of the minor leagues. And the first thing on your mind should be, I don't want to go back.
No, I agree. Well said. It's going to be interesting because I do think, and again, I'm going to reiterate, I would be disappointed if Bill DeWitt, who has the final say on anything of consequence, I would be disappointed if he did something irresponsible or stupid. He doesn't have to prove anything to me by doing that. But I do think he's going to have to do something, especially if this season ends up to be a positive season. I think it will be, but there's some challenges. But it sort of sets up a 2026 where Cardinals fans will feel better about the team during the offseason and going into the season. And I think you have to take where the feelings are maybe starting to turn more positive among the fans. I think you need to reinforce that by taking action, but you don't have to do anything crazy, and I'm really excited to see what Chaim Bloom will do in his job, because he so impressed with the way he has studied this team. He knows it inside and out. And I believe he's got more influence on the major league roster than the Cardinals want us to know about. And I understand that there's it's kind of a line of demarcation there, but he is setting this thing up so nice. John Mozeliak, with Bloom's input, they're setting this thing up nicely for 2026, but then that's where the ownership comes in. And if Bill DeWitt can answer some of these questions about, are you cheap or are you committed to winning? You'll have to forgive me. And again, I've known Bill DeWitt, known him well, and had a good relationship with him. And by the way, when a media person has a good relationship with someone in a position of authority, it doesn't mean he rolls over and, plays dead and, poor Bill DeWitt. No, I don't do that. Bill and I have had our disagreements over the years, and he lets me know about stuff when he thinks I'm being unfair. But all these people, and maybe, Randy, this gets back to your Jerry Reinsdorf question. All these people, they're everywhere on social media. Sell the team, DeWitt. Sell the team. Even with this downturn, which, by the way, is not kind of like a Pittsburgh Pirates downturn, the perpetual downturn. The Cardinals under Bill DeWitt ranked third in the major leagues since 1996 in postseason wins, and they have the fourth best regular season winning percentage. And you've got people in this town screaming for him to sell the team. Be careful what you wish for.
Well, and Bernie, we've done it on this show before. When you look at the 5 markets above and below St. Louis, when you look at the Pittsburghs and the Clevelands and the Colorados, the Denvers and the Miamis of the world, that's what you're looking at. There is not a single franchise in the 5 market sizes directly above and below St. Louis not a single franchise that has done or is even doing what the Cardinals are doing.
Right. And again, some of this downturn could have been prevented, and that's my disappointment. I see a question there. Is Contreras contract inefficient? No. Why would you consider it inefficient?
I think they're referring to is that the Cardinals signed him to be a catcher,
right,
for the $87.5 million. I said, if you sign somebody to play a position and they don't play that position, then it didn't work out the way you expected it was going to work out. I think we can all agree that, he's not playing the position, and he's a middle of the road in terms of offensive efficiency this year. He's a middle of the road first baseman. He's fine for the Cardinals, but the question is he catching? No, he's not.
But here's the question on that.
Well, that's okay with me, because he's got you go back to late April, and his numbers are, because he got off to that terrible start, his numbers are great offensively, and you got a much better defensive catcher behind the plate now, which your pitchers appreciate. Yep. So I think it's working out fine. And then there's only 2 more years to go after this. It's not like the dude's making $30 million. He's making 18 million and change per season.
Yeah, and there's a difference between efficiency and working out. And the contract, while efficient, I think we can all agree that when the Cardinals signed him several years ago, they didn't expect that A, they were going to say that he couldn't catch after 30 games, and B, they anticipated that he was going to be catching during the 2025 season.
Yeah, and the Ivan Herrera factor entered into this, but they're doing the right thing, in my opinion, by keeping Pages behind the plate. I don't want to see Herrera get hurt and beat up behind the plate, and he can't throw people out anyway. And the Cardinals have all kinds of great catching on the way. This Raniel Rodriguez, this kid is scary. I can't wait to see him climb through the minor leagues. I'm a Contreras guy because the way he's handled all of this after he was treated so horrendously in his first season by management, even Ollie Marmol, who regrets it now. He has shown nothing but dignity and class and devotion to the Cardinals. And Randy, if he was like a mediocre hitter or whatever, I would buy into your point, like really buy into it. But I don't know. I think you and I see it a different way, but I do understand your point. I do.
No, it's actually very simple. They signed him to catch, and he's not catching. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm not saying that he's a negative. He's an incredible positive for the team. All I'm saying is that when you sign a guy at what you say is a premium position, you say he's going to replace our legendary guy. This is the person that we've chosen to replace our legend, and he doesn't wind up playing that position, then it didn't work. I would defy anybody in the Cardinal organization to say, yeah, we expected that we were going to be playing Contreras at first this year. I don't think that was their expectation when they signed him before the 23 season.
No, I agree, but I also adapt to what they have done. He's an above average first baseman, and all the people were laughing at the idea of playing first base. I think need to just go sit down and shut up, because they had no idea what they were talking about. And once again, this idea, see, people underestimate this guy constantly, which I love, because he's determined to prove everyone wrong. He's a fun first baseman. He makes great plays down there. And his bat is he's got a middle of the lineup bat. So I just don't understand what the problem is.
It's not a problem. It's just that this is not what they expected. Has it worked? Has, from a team perspective, has it worked out? Yes. He's a terrific first baseman, terrific guy, great leader, everything, all about that. All I'm saying is that he's not catching.
Well, and here's the thing that I think we haven't even really touched on yet, is the numbers aspect of this. Financially, the Cardinals came out winning in this situation. If you look at the average MLB salary for catchers versus first baseman, catchers are making $3 million, first basemen are making $5 million. So you paid him to catch, but the first baseman typically, when you head to free agency, are making more money than catchers are. And if you look at Wilson Contreras playing not necessarily the premium position defensively that you would have expected, you may have gotten him for a bargain if he hit the market as a first baseman. So it's not as if he went from catching to a much lesser position like a left fielder that doesn't make quite as much. He went from catching to first base, which is typically negotiated based on offensive output. But because he's been able to defend the way that he's defended and hit the way that he's hit, I don't think the Cardinals lost on this deal at all. And maybe they benefited from it, moving him off of that position.
Yeah, I mean, that's I think you summed that up very well. Listen, since he became a Cardinal, among right-handed hitters, he's in the top 15. So would that look more valuable? I guess if those numbers were coming as a catcher. Yeah, you can make the case. But what I'm saying is, when you have a top 10 to 15 major league bat among right-handed hitters, and this is now 23, 24, this is now his third year, you're getting your money's worth. That's all I'm saying, and I'm not going to downgrade the move because the move worked out. That's just how I see it. We can
we can talk circles, but he's playing very well for a team that has a chance to be a playoff team at the end of the day, and he's converted positions very well. There's no doubt about that. And the Cardinals, I think that we can all agree, the same thing that happened with Ivan Herrera. They did not evaluate him as a catcher very well because, like everybody else in baseball, I mean, nobody would trade for him at the deadline in 22 because of what he was as a catcher. The Astros wanted him as a DH. And Dusty Baker said, nope, I'm not. I don't want him. We aren't going to make that trade for him. And so that's why he wound up ending his career as a Cub, as a free agent, because everybody in baseball agreed that he couldn't catch except for one team.
Yeah, they rolled the die.
Yeah. So, and he's
okay with me. I like the way it's worked.
Absolutely. Out. Yeah, no doubt. And hey, it's he won another game for him yesterday. He's won a lot of games for him. He's when you talk about who would have thought that right now the two best right-handed hitters with Nolan Arenado on the roster would be Wilson Contreras and Ivan Herrera.
I know.
Right?
And the thing too is that at some point with Pages coming along, and the buzz on him defensively had been there for years. If anything, I wonder if the Cardinals factored in listen, they had some misgivings about him as a catcher, talking about Contreras. I think they were hoping he would be an average catcher. But they also had Pages on the way, and his defensive reputation was sterling, and we're seeing why. So if you're going to upgrade your catching position defensively, and I saw where Pages Sports Info Solution just wrote a thing about him, about how great he is behind the plate. If you are going to make a significant upgrade to your catcher defense, which also, it's not just throwing out runners. It's calling games. It's working with the pitchers. Those pitchers love Pages. Well, if you can take the catcher that you had and move him to another position where offense is supposed to be premium offense, that's first base. To me, we all agree the Cardinals are really, really, really dependent on outstanding defense. Because they don't have a strikeout staff. So if you take what was a weaker part of your defense, which is catcher, and you plug in a strong defensive catcher, he's saved like 8 runs already this year, which is a lot for a catcher. Well, you got a place to put Contreras, so you're getting better offensively. Because listen, I don't care what Goldie's doing for the Yankees. It's a separate situation.
Mm-hmm.
He was on the wane in St. Louis. So you've upgraded your offense at the first base position based on what you had before, and you've strengthened, I would say, significantly strengthened your catching position defensively. Listen, maybe this wasn't how they were planning for it to work out, and maybe they got a little lucky, but it worked.
Mm-hmm. They did. Yeah, no doubt.
Randy, you and I can always find that lane where we both kind of say, well, okay.
Yeah.
You made a good point, Randy. Okay, Bernie, you made a good point. No, and I think it's okay to do that. See, we had a great discussion there. I love that.
It's a great thing about sports. It's fantastic. So you'll be watching a lot of Cards and Dodgers this weekend, I trust?
I will. I'm going to probably watch the Belmont Stakes.
Oh, yeah. Who do you got?
I got my eye on a couple of horses, but I tell you what, that given Bob Baffert's history in the Belmont and the fact that Mike Smith is the jockey and the fact that last time I checked, this horse, Rodriguez, was 6-1 or 7-1. I got my eye on that horse.
I just thought for sure that you would be you'd be all over. Is journalism racing this weekend?
Yeah. I think it's going to be too much for journalism.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I mean,
I know how much you love journalism.
Yeah, I do. So if I had a horse, if I bought a horse and we're going to race it at Fairmount Park, let's say, I think I would name it digital journalism.
Yeah, they say that horse has a lot of AP style when he wins, so that's a big plus.
Yep. Well done.
Yeah. Well, I love you guys, Stefan. Really great working with you, man.
Pleasure. Yeah.
If you guys are ever in a bind like at night and someone's a no-show, Stefan, get me on there with you. We can rap for a good half.
Oh, that would be a blast.
I know.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Thanks, Bernie.
See you guys. Have a great weekend.
You too. That's Bernie Miklasz with us every Friday here on the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central. See that name there on that? Now we're STL Sports Central. The litigation is complete, and now we have a new name. STL Sports Central is our name, and we need you to know a couple of things. Number one, that Hot Shots allows for us to have our STL Sports Central post-game shows brought to you in part by them, by Hot Shots. Congratulations to Hot Shots on 35 years. Hot Shots, St. Louis home for all the games all the time since 1990. Find yours at hotshotsnet.com. We love our friends at Hot Shots, and we also want you to go and root for the Battlehawks this weekend. The Battlehawks playing at home against the DC Defenders over at the Dome. 5 o'clock Sunday for the XFL Conference Championship. And you need to be sure that you check out Battlehawks Hub Weekly. After the game, we'll have all of the coverage from Luke Slaybaugh and Judy Strotter as they get you ready, or they take you through the results of the XFL Conference Championship game and hopefully get you ready for the UFL Championship game the following Sunday at the Dome. Battlehawks coverage on STL Sports Central is brought to you by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken Battlehawks Box. Score up to 30% off Battlehawks tickets, plus get 4 of their famous breast strips and a side of potato wedges for just $8.99 only at Lee's Famous for Chicken. How about that? Pretty cool. Oh, here's more UFL stuff for you. Okay, the Battlehawks have a lot going on. You can join the pregame tailgate relief effort with the United Way of Greater St. Louis nonprofit partner, the St. Louis Food Bank. They'll be out there with a truck on Sunday to collect food for tornado victims in the area. Then, if you buy tickets, $10 to Tornado Relief Fund for every ticket sold to the game. You can round up at the register at the UFL shop outside of Section 153 at the Dome. All of the 50-50 money raised on Sunday will obviously be a huge number, and that will benefit the United Way of Greater St. Louis. Portion of the Battlehawks 50-50 raffle will go to the Greater St. Louis United Way. And the UFL is, we've also got Birmingham and Michigan playing for the USFL championship on Sunday. So a lot of football this weekend in addition to the baseball. You going to be over at the ball games?
No, at the St. Louis games. Yeah, I will. I'll be there tonight and tomorrow, and then we leave Sunday. My mom turns 60 tomorrow, so we'll be
happy birthday.
Yes. It's
what's your mom's name?
Susan.
Susan. Okay. Yeah. So happy birthday to her. Glad she's going to be in town. So you taking her to brunch or something?
We're figuring out what we're going to do. I think after this, we're going to go meet up for lunch after we've done some great capital J digital journalism and not the horse, but we're going to go enjoy and hopefully avoid the rain, and then we'll take her to the ballpark where we'll hopefully enjoy Cardinals win.
Hopefully we'll get a Cardinal W out of it. Hey, we thank all of you for being a part of the show. And we thank Matthew Rocchio, our audio and video engineer. You got things rolling after a slow start. You pretty happy with the way things worked out?
No, pretty mad today, actually.
Oh, don't be mad.
Pretty disappointed.
Come on. You get another shot at it on Monday.
There you go. By the way, I just want to throw this out. We didn't get to talk about it, but right before we went on the air, the Stars fired Pete DeBoer, which is, I just, what do you guys think really? I just wanted some quick thoughts on an era of American sports where teams are now more willing than ever to say, if you can't get us across the hump, we'll find somebody that apparently we think can.
I think it's stupid. I've thought about this. The only time that I can think of that this worked was when the Buccaneers fired Tony Dungy and traded for John Gruden, won the championship the next year. I don't think it happens where you fire a guy that took you deep into the playoffs, and then the next year you wind up winning the championship because you were impatient.
Yeah, a lot of the time you're firing a coach only to go back into that same coaching pool of other coaches that have been fired for one reason or another. So there's no guarantee that that's going to be a successful play.
No.
You saw it with Tom Thibodeau
Yep.
with the Knicks. I mean, it's so difficult because what the precedent that it sets is that you have to win the championship or else you're not valuable to this franchise. I think that's ridiculous.
The only other one I can think of, and it's not nearly as comparable, is that the Warriors went to the Western Conference semis, and then they lost in the first round the next year under Mark Jackson.
Yeah.
And they won 51 games under Mark Jackson. The next year, Kerr takes over, and they win 67 in the finals.
Yeah, and I think there might have been some extenuating things with Mark Jackson too.
Yes, yeah, can't be walking through the hall saying the things he was saying, but also
With all due respect.
Yes, I think also to your point with your other example, you bring in a coach that completely takes your offense from 0 to 100. That was Gruden who took that Tampa Bay offense and rejuvenated it despite not having a talent. And Kerr had the talent; they just had to have somebody who could actually scheme it up because Jackson wasn't doing it. And yet, in both cases, the defensive coach laid the groundwork for what helped them win the actual championship. Because the Warriors don't win that championship without defense, and obviously the Buccaneers don't win that championship without defense.
I wonder if the Stars have somebody in mind, or if they just kind of decided, okay, well, let's just go get a new guy.
Yeah, it's bizarre to me. Anytime a team that's winning, they say fire the manager or fire the head coach. It's difficult because a lot of the time you're allowing another coach to walk into a culture that has already been built up by somebody else and take credit when the team succeeds maybe marginally more than the guy before. I find that to be so difficult. If that had happened to anybody here in St. Louis or with the other teams that we support, these are human beings. These are people that are going to work every single day trying to better themselves and the team. Sometimes you have to make a change, but really you get attached to anybody that's played sports. You get attached to your coach, and they're not usually the problem. So we'll see.
Great job, Stefan. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Of days. Anytime that you are in town, you got an open invitation. We want to have you on the show.
I'd love it. I'd love it. I will try my best not to say anything that will affect this highly esteemed journalistic this pillar of an excellent digital journalism being done here.
There you go. Digital journalism. Air quotes. Hey, thank you for being a part of the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central. That's our new name on YouTube. And we will see you on Monday morning at what? 10:04? 10:02? Let's give it a 10:02.